It's been a crazy past 4 years. There was one girl in a class who said, oh, well, doesn't Biden have Alzheimer's? Racist. I don't know. It's like, it's not a good image of the United States. Let me tell you what. Hello. Okay, you guys, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maddie, if you don't know me. I am from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I currently live in Paris, France. I teach English here. So as an American living abroad, I thought it would be kind of interesting to talk about what it has been like for me as an American living abroad during this absolutely insane election, and just kind of like what are the questions I get, what is it like being a teacher in this scenario, and things like that. And I just kind of wanted to offer some of my final thoughts about the election and things like that, just to I think just to kind of cleanse everything out of my system. Okay, so let's get into it. So my first year here, I came here in September of 2017. So Trump had just been inaugurated in January. And so when I arrived here, I got a lot of questions like, what do you think of Trump? Do you think that Hillary is a bitch? Things like that. So I think, first of all, right off the bat, it's really obvious that people abroad are people in other countries are very aware of American politics and what's happening. I remember my first year I went on a walk with my friend Julia, who is from Sweden, and I remember Julia saying something about Jared Kushner, and I started talking about it, and then as I was walking, I thought to myself, wait a second, how would I possibly know the president's daughter's husband of another country? It's like I feel like we are so focused on ourselves in the United States. Like, we have such a small worldview, I feel like, of what's going on, and there really is so much emphasis on what's going on in the US, so it's kind of crazy. So when I first arrived here, there was a lot of questions about Trump, and so now fast forward to this year. So this year I am teaching English again in two schools. So I teach like middle school aged kids, and so their English is like already at a pretty good level. So all of my teachers wanted me to talk about the election and what's coming up, and the teachers here were really excited to have me here just so I could speak about the election and what's going on and all of that. Okay, so basically every single one of my teachers asked me to do some lessons about the election, talk about what's going on, the candidates, their beliefs. Also, as a rule, when I was talking about the elections and everything going on, I do not disclose who I voted for and my personal beliefs. Literally every single class, a student raised their hand and asked me who I voted for, and I always said, I shouldn't say, because even though of course I would have loved to tell them, I just think that as a teacher, it's not really my job to tell them my beliefs, and I think that everyone and also they're French kids, so whatever. But anyway, so I never told them who I voted for and kind of my stance on anything. I tried to be as impartial as possible when I spoke about things. So speaking of voting, okay, so explaining voting to people in France, it was so difficult. Okay, so every single class that I had, I tried to explain the Electoral College to all of the French kids and even the teachers. Of course, the teachers have a better handle on it, but every single kid was basically just like, why? And I think it's funny because America views itself, and I think a lot of other people view America as this great democracy, and so I think when you try to explain it to people that aren't from the US, they're like, okay, but then people kind of see it as, okay, well then it's not really every single person's vote is counting. That's how they see it. So it's really, really, really difficult to explain the Electoral College to people from another country, especially children whose who English is a second language, so it's really hard for them to understand. Also, there was a lot of questions from kids, some of the younger kids, you know, who are like 10. They asked me if I flew home to the United States to vote. I was like, no, of course not. And I told them that I voted by mail and that I voted absentee, which obviously then raised a lot of questions because, so in France, you can vote by mail, but it has to be a very special circumstance. Otherwise, you can actually vote by, I guess you would say like by proxy, like you can get someone, like a trusted person to vote for you, which I think is really interesting, which, I mean, like, I would totally let, for example, like my dad or something, like be like, okay, these are the votes I want, can you go vote for me? Like I would totally let my like dad or something do that for me. So that is actually quite interesting, I think. But so yeah, so there was a lot of questions about the voting by mail, like that system, and how that works, who can vote by mail. And then there was a lot of people, I think also a lot of people didn't understand that voting by mail is something that we've done before. It's not a new system. Okay, so also, just kind of, I mean, these are children, like they are very young, but most of the children who I talk to, like I was talking to one kid that I tutor online right now, of course, because of COVID, and I said to him something about Trump, and he said, well, yeah, Trump is an idiot. Most kids in the schools here think that Trump, and I think most of the adults here, think that Trump is an idiot. Like they really, like, people think that he is legitimately crazy. Like they don't understand why we voted for him. They don't understand why he is our president. Like they see him as this, like, I mean, I keep saying that word, but people literally see him as an idiot. Like I did, whenever I would talk about him in classes, the kids, if we did like a mock vote, they'd be like, oh no, like we don't like him, you know, because people really see him as this like racist, I don't know, it's like, it's not a good image of the United States, let me tell you what. And if you, I mean, it's crazy how much, like, while I say like it's hard to explain things to kids sometimes, kids also have a good handle of like what's going on, like a general idea. Like a lot of kids this year, I noticed, for example, one class was doing a project about decorating lockers, and a lot of the kids had like Black Lives Matter stickers on their lockers. I mean, kids like really, I mean, like they really surprised me how much they know about what's going on. So yeah, so I was really impressed by that. But yeah, so basically kids here do not think that Trump is, like, they don't admire him, to put it shortly. I mean, to be fair, there was one girl in a class who said, oh, well, doesn't Biden have Alzheimer's? Here in France, they know what's going on in the US, which I can't ever remember a time when I was a kid, like, I don't ever remember a time when I knew what was going on in France or any other country during their elections. So yeah, so it's been really, really interesting to try and explain the electoral process and just hearing people's opinions of Trump and how, just things like that. Also, basically anytime that I was in, I mean, after the election on Tuesday, basically every time I was in like the break room or in the hallway, some of my colleagues they would come up to me and be like, oh, is it decided? Oh, is it decided? Any news about the election? Last night, so I'm filming this on Sunday, last night was officially when it was decided that Biden was the winner. And so people were like, one of my colleagues called me and we were talking about it, and she was like, oh, you know, congratulations. And another one of my colleagues texted me, which is super, super nice. And yeah, so it's been really great, and it's been really interesting to be here during this time. I will say though, just being someone that voted for Biden and really believes in a different direction that I think our country can take, and being someone that thinks that Trump was so toxic for our country, like I don't get homesick a lot, but there are certain times when I'm like, oh, I wish I was in the US for that. And this is one of those times, seeing everyone celebrating in the streets and like screaming, crying, just so happy and relieved that Biden won. That's something I really wish that I could be home and celebrating with my family and some of my friends. It's been a crazy past 4 years. The biggest changes are made like by people, basically, by large groups of people. And I think that is totally something that we've seen come true. I mean, there's been so many marches, so much conversation, and I think that even despite of this president who refused to denounce white supremacy on multiple occasions, who has ignited this crazy idea that a free press is the enemy of democracy, in spite of all this, there have still been some positive changes. But I just think that even though Biden is going to become our president, yes, we can celebrate, but we don't need to relax. Like, I have never like gone hard for Biden or even Kamala, which I will say though, I was not excited about the victory. I really have just been feeling super cynical. And I was like, okay, yeah, he won, but now there's gonna be months or weeks of, and of course, like, if they want to recount the votes, do it. By all means, recount the votes. But I was like, I feel like I can't even celebrate yet. But then when I realized that Kamala Harris is going to be the first woman in the White House, I mean, she is a Black and Asian woman in the White House, like, that really gave me chills, and it made me super emotional because, I mean, there are so many young girls, I think, in the United States now who are looking up to her and saying, wow, that can be me too, which is amazing. And like I said, and I can realize that, and I can be happy for breaking that glass ceiling, but I can also realize that there are a lot of decisions in Kamala's past that I haven't agreed with, and I think that you can do both things. You can think that someone is going to be better for the country, but also you don't have to worship them, or I don't know, do you know what I'm saying? I think that we should all continue to educate ourselves. We need to continue, of course, still questioning things. We need to continue to work together, cooperate, like, just try to keep making positive strides in our communities, because I think that so much positive change can come in our communities. It doesn't just come from the president. The president is largely a figurehead. He's largely someone that just represents the United States. There are so many different levels of checks and balances. It's not just the president who makes the decisions. If you're someone that voted for Trump, and I don't hate anyone, I don't hate people that voted for Trump. I don't wish anyone harm or ill wishes or anything like that. I maybe have difficulties understanding, and you're afraid of your way of life changing. You think that our country is going to go in the wrong direction. You think that Trump was this man of God, and you are worried about your voice no longer being heard because you're from somewhere that you feel like your voice isn't heard. And I totally understand that. You still have representatives from your state in Congress. Joe Biden does not have total power. There's still a lot of work to be done. But I think as a figurehead, as someone that represents the United States, I am happy that it is someone that is compassionate. I'm happy we have someone like Kamala Harris to represent the United States, who speaks with conviction and intelligence, who is a woman of color. Ultimately, I am really happy for this change that is going to happen in the United States. I do think I'm going to take a little bit of a break from social media for a while because I just need to step away for a while, you know? I just need to like relax, stop like this hamster wheel of opinions, positive or negative. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that everyone continues to educate themselves, to work together, to open their minds, to open their hearts, to try to see a different point of view, because I know that I will be doing the same. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!